Good evening. Welcome to the December Toolbox Tuesday, all about dads, and featuring Jeremy Warren. Uh, Jeremy Warren is an Oklahoma native who was raised in Broken Arrow and is a Broken Arrow High School graduate. He pursued a career in graphic design and sign manufacturing that served him well for 20 plus years in the Tulsa metro area. Jeremy and his wife Heidi have been married for 21 plus years, have 6 sons, one of which has extensive special needs, including being nonverbal, having limited mobility, and a seizure disorder, which are all parts of his PURA syndrome and POLG disorder. They live on a small farmstead in Northeast Oklahoma that they have built as a family and is where Jeremy enjoys working the land and building things when he's not serving other men and their families. Jeremy is the founding director for Dads on Special Assignment, otherwise known as DOSA. It's a 501c3 nonprofit serving men who have a son or daughter with a mental, physical, or medical challenge, often defined as special needs. Jeremy's passion is to see others succeed by finding hope, healing, and purpose in their role as a dad on special assignment, often spending time writing content for their monthly support groups, their challenge series workbooks, and other material he hopes to be published in the near future. He says, relationships are the most important thing we have. First and foremost, our relationship with our Creator. Secondly, our relationship with our family. And thirdly, our relationship with others. Jeremy is continuing on his journey by engaging in the lives of men through DOSA and the opportunity that it brings. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Jeremy Warren.
Hey, Renee, thanks so much. Hey, I appreciate everybody that's here, and for those that are going to be watching this on the YouTube channel when it's presented there. So, yes, they asked me to share this month, and I'm excited to be here. I think that dads is a very important role within the family unit, and so when we look at our stories, when we look at our lives, we recognize that every one of our backgrounds are completely different. And the thing that brings us together is the uniqueness of our kids. And so I want to give you just a little background on me. I appreciate Renee sharing that, but I want to bring a little context to it. Um, like she said, I grew up in Broken Arrow. My wife and I have been married for 21 years. We have 6 sons, all biological sons, ranging from 17 down to 5 months old. But my story really got interesting whenever our son Landon was born. We had a very healthy pregnancy, but once we ended up in the hospital for delivery, it was very evident that there was complications that we were unaware of. And so upon delivery, he was not breathing. We had a lot of trauma in the first few hours of life, starting with a knot in his umbilical cord, which was part of that story. But then that turned into his lungs collapsing, not being able to stabilize his blood oxygen levels. And at just a couple weeks old, he was put on a ventilator, still having a hard time getting him stabilized. And then they ended up doing a tracheotomy. So he had a trach put in at 6 weeks and had very low muscle tone, not able to function well. And then he came home after about 3 months in ICU on a ventilator and oxygen, which he had for 2.5 years. And so the first really 3 years of life was just chaos at best. I was working 2 jobs at the time, providing financially, insurance. There's just a lot of things going on. I had a 2-year-old son at home who needed attention as well. And now I was trying to figure out how to navigate life with a son who required a lot of medical and doctor's appointments and follow-up visits and everything that comes with that. And so the thing that the thing that's important that I feel like I need to share tonight is I grew up in an environment that I had men around me. I had friends. I had guys who I considered to be that go-to when you need somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning. But what I discovered was after my son was born, I was living in a world that no one around me understood. Um, and what slowly started happening is a lot of my closest friends started drifting away. Part of it was the fact that I was so distracted with my family, I didn't have time for friendships. Part of it was the fact that they did not know how to communicate with me at this point. A lot of times when you get together, hang out with buddies, first thing you say, "Hey man, how's it going? How you doing?" They already knew I wasn't doing well, and so they simply went and asked the question, and so it created distance. And what I found is that some of my closest relationships, some of my closest friendships started fading. And after a short amount of time, I was pretty isolated, became heavily addicted with hobbies and things that interested me, and started isolating from everyone around me. And I recognized that it was not healthy. But honestly, I had no idea how to cope with what I was facing. Um, and so as that happened, what I saw from there was the importance of relationships, as Renee shared already. And so I started down a process with a school here in Tulsa. There's a school called Little Lighthouse. It serves families. Um, my son got enrolled. I took him there, and what I quickly discovered is that they were incredible at providing for the kids. I'm sure many of you have amazing stories of ways that there's organizations that are providing care for your child. What I found is that they did not have any support for men. There's women's groups that were meeting, because the reality is a lot of times women are the primary caregiver. And so whenever you have men that are in the role of caring for a child of any age, there's no support available. And so that's really what started me down this journey. I felt like at that point, I was like, man, there's got to be something. There's got to be something for men specifically, that have a son or daughter with a mental, physical, or medical challenge. And how do we build a brotherhood, build a community of men that can sit down in a room together and share life, who can share stories and can just have an outlet to be able to share things, because we don't want to always burden, um, for those that are married or have a wife in the home, uh, you don't always want to burden them with the things that's going on in your mind. And so you need a place, you need people in your life that you can open up and share with, but also just having that support. And so fast forward about 10 years, um, I was taking some time walking. I like to mountain bike and ruck and do exercise. And so I was walking a trail and just I was in a tough spot. I was in a tough spot with work. I was in a tough spot with my family. Um, Something needed to change, and I felt it deep down, just in the core of me. And so we started a group with 8 guys. A couple months later, we formed a nonprofit, and we started Dads on Special Assignment. And I'll have a chance to get into that a little bit more, but I wanted to just kind of share a little bit of how we got to where we're at. Um, we started it in October of 2021, was our very first meeting. We formed our 501(c)(3) in 22. And then I was able to go on full time about a year after that, um, and just dedicate my entire schedule to what we're doing. And so we've got a lot of support groups that meet in and around the Tulsa area, Midtown, Bixby, Broken Arrow, and through the process of that, Little Lighthouse, where a lot of this began, partnered with us, and we have support groups that meet there as well. And I was sharing with them before we started recording about a Zoom group that we're actually launching online after the first of the year, so we can engage more men in more locations and just start building that connection. It's amazing when you can sit down and share your story, how powerful it is. I recognized that early on. I I had an opportunity to take one of the dads to lunch, and we sat down and enjoyed a meal and just talked about life. And it got down to the last 10 minutes of our time together. He had an hour lunch break. He needed to get back to work. And I could tell he's getting really fidgety. And he just kind of gave me that look. He's like, okay, so why are we here? Like, what do you need from me? And I told him, I said, I don't need anything from you. I just wanted to get together and hear your story and let you know that people love you and people care. And that was one of the first times I watched a grown man break down and cry. Um, and that's when I really realized that what we're doing is needed. I know each one of you on this call is here because you have a story, you have a family member, a loved one that you love dearly, that requires extra from you. Um, we have a slogan as we're ordinary dads with an extraordinary assignment. If you look throughout Scripture, there's story after story after story through the New and Old Testament that tells of ordinary men that did extraordinary things because they recognized who Christ was in their life, the role that he played. And I believe that wholeheartedly that every one of your stories matter, your kids matter. We see this throughout Scripture, um, multiple places. Psalms 139 is one of the places that comes to mind where it says that I formed you and knit you together in your mother's womb, and all your days were numbered, and I knew each one of them. And to me, that's a foundational piece for what we're doing as a ministry and just helping people recognize that their child is not a mistake, that there's purpose, and really helping men find hope, healing, and purpose through this process. And I share this often is we look at our family members, we look at our kids, and we see attributes of who God is that we see no other way. They display things that we would not understand if it wasn't for them in our lives. And to me, that's critical because each one of us struggle, and God wants to teach us something. He wants to grow us, and most importantly, He wants to strengthen the relationship that we have to Him. And I believe that He does that through a variety of ways. We all have and know of people that have incredible testimonies from a variety of backgrounds. But I know that for each one of us, a part of that story is how our kids mold us and shape us into being the men that God desires us to be. And so um, that's really what our focus is really helping men understand that they are on a special assignment, that this was a gift. Um, and we have the opportunity to grow and develop through that gift, and we have the privilege of raising them and caring for them. So I really would love to open it up. I have plenty of things that I could talk about on our time here, but I'd like to just open it up with what I've shared. Is there thoughts, questions, comments, interest? Is there anything that's on your mind from what I've shared so far that maybe you'd be willing to step out and share?
Hey Jeremy, I'm Jonathan. Uh,
Jonathan, what's happening?
Not much. If you hear my kid screaming in the background, I'm sorry. But yeah, I really appreciate you getting together and finding or making a group yourself and finding other dads to support. Because I know with Renee has helped me with connect with other dads, and I think it's funny when you first get together with a group of guys, everyone's kind of just like getting a feel for the group, and seeing what they have to say, why am I here? And then it's like once you start opening up and everybody has, a similar struggle, like I feel like that connection really strengthens the group. So, I mean, thank you for sharing and thank you for everything that you're doing. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jonathan. You're absolutely right. The thing that's fascinating to me is we have men that are part of DOSA that has, I mean, just a wide range of backgrounds as far as diagnoses with their kids. And I'll be the first to admit, we didn't actually get a diagnosis for Landon until he was 13 years old. They didn't actually write Pura syndrome into medical literature until I think it was 2015. So he was 6 or 7 years old before it was really discovered. And we did some additional blood work and things when he was 13, and that's when they realized, okay, this is what he has. So for us, I spent 13 years of not really knowing what it was that was going on, but it was very obvious. I mean, he's in physical therapy and speech and occupational therapy every week, and like I said, he's got limited mobility. But I share that because we've got guys with, and I'd love to hear some about your families. I mean, we have a lot of families that deal with hard of hearing or deaf. We have Down syndrome. There is autism. We have foster and adoptive families, behavioral challenges. I mean, the list goes on as far as what the diagnoses are with the kids. But the fascinating thing for me is that no matter what the story is, no matter what your story is, Jonathan or Joshua, you guys are on here, the needs for men is always the same. The challenges are always the same, regardless of the diagnosis. And so for me, that's the beautiful thing is we can sit down and have a conversation together. And while our kids may be 180 degrees apart, the things that you face and the things that I face are the same. And so we talk a lot about, we have a challenge series curriculum. It's one of the things we're going to be launching some new groups after the first of the year. So something I'd love to share and get you guys connected with. But it's a 13 session workbook that we do as a group. And we cover a lot of different things, but I already touched a little bit on friendships, the value of friendships. But one of the big things is grief. A lot of people associate grief with a loss of loved one through death. But the reality is we grieve the child that we thought we would have. And that's a major component here. And it comes up over and over and over in our conversations. You know, you make it past a milestone and guys like, man, I'm good. I'm in a good spot. And then you go 6 months down the road and his friend's son is playing t-ball or is doing something that maybe you know that your kid's never going to be able to do. And now that grieving process starts all over again. And so like we talk through those types of things. And again, it brings us back to the reality of the role of the dad is so critical in the family unit. And we've failed miserably as a society, but I think that we have an incredible gift, an incredible opportunity because we have sons and daughters that are valued by the King. He absolutely loves our kids. He has a purpose for them, and he's gifted them to us, and they have things that our society needs to understand and see, and we have the opportunity to be the advocates, to be the front runners for them, and be able to help people understand the value and the role that our families play in our community. You know, if you look around the globe, culturally, there's a lot of cultures that actually view our families as outcasts. They are exiled from a lot of things, but the reality is they are crucial to every single community, right? And so giving opportunities to help people understand. I was in a store a while back. Some of the guys that know me have heard this story before because it's one of my favorite ones to share. I was pushing Landon through the store in his wheelchair, and this little girl comes up to me, and she, you know, kids are blunt. They've got no filter, right? I mean, she walks up to me and she goes, "What's wrong with his legs?" And you can immediately see the mother respond of, Leave him alone. Let's go the other direction. Like we're not engaging this." and almost in an embarrassment type of form. And I very politely was like, hey, and I crouched down low and I got eye to eye with this little girl and I said, have you ever been to the park and played so much that your legs were just so tired that you just wanted to sit down or lay down because you had played so hard? And like you saw the grin on her face, she got so excited and she could relate to that. And I go, well, that's how my son's legs feel all the time. His legs are always tired. His legs feel right now like your legs do after you play at the playground. And you could see the mother. You could see a mother engage in that conversation with her daughter, um, and recognize that it was a learning opportunity for her. So for me, it's not just about helping men be healthier. The reality is this, and this is biblical, and I don't hesitate to say this. DOSA is a Christ-focused ministry because without Christ in our lives, nothing else matters. Not everybody agrees with that statement, and that's okay. We have an opportunity to love them through it, and we have an opportunity to share the value of their family. But one of the things we learn and one of the things we see is that if men are truly healthy, then they can have a healthy relationship with their spouse, which many of us will agree and admit that hasn't always been that way and may not be that way right now. But if men can get healthy, then they can have healthy relationships with their spouse, which in turn means that they can have a healthy family unit. They can have healthy kids because there's a healthy relationship at home between them. If it's a single dad, the relationship between them and the child, or any other influence that might be in their life, right? Whether it's a teacher or a family friend or an aunt or uncle or whoever it is. Um, but if men are healthy, then they have a healthy relationship at home, and that's going to help develop into what it needs to be as these kids get older. There's men who have kids in their 50s, 40s, and 50s that are part of DOSA because they are still the parent. They're still dad. That's something that never changes, right? I mean, the age doesn't matter. You're always dad. And that's an opportunity that we have. And so we talk about being healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. We have to address all three of these areas. We see time and time again how we get hyper focused, and I'm the first one to admit I fall in this category. We can get hyper focused on one of those areas. We might be in a season where we just don't feel great, so we want to focus on getting healthy physically, but we neglect quiet time, or we neglect just having downtime, having rest, mental space, or maybe we're good at resting, but we don't take time for the things that we need to give time to. So we always see kind of this imbalance that's happening. And so one of the things we talk a lot about, and one of the things I wanted to open up for tonight is just the importance of healthy men. And what does healthy men look like? It's having a healthy mental, physical, and spiritual life, and seeing all those pull together, and engaging with our families the way we need to. I spent plenty of years disconnected. We had nurses that were living in our home during those first few years while we were getting Landon stabilized. It was just not possible to care for him 24 hours a day. So our marriage had a challenging season there because we have someone sitting in our living room keeping our son alive. You go through the seasons of isolation. You go through the seasons of addiction because you can't process it. And then working through that and having mentors, having having other relationships that kind of guide you along in that. And the thing that I recognize for me is there is no end to this. This is a lifelong pursuit. We're continually growing, maturing, learning. You know, I have a friend who says that if you're not growing, you're dead. You know, you look at the life of of anything, a plant, a tree. Um, it's always getting nutrients. It's always drawing something in order to help it thrive. And so I feel like we have to be willing to do that. That's why you guys are on this call. You're here because you desire to be a better dad. You desire to be a better husband. You want to be the father figure that raises healthy children according to what it is that they've been given, right? And so, um, yeah, I mean that's a little bit more when it comes to that. Are there any other is there any other thoughts or questions? I want to give plenty of time for us to just have conversation, answer questions, and just talk through some of what life's challenges look like, right?
Yeah, hey, my name's Joshua Russo. I was going to see about your Tulsa groups that you got going on,
Yeah,
for myself and for I'm a mentor as well with people that are going through with men that are going through the DHS system, trying to get their kids back or just trying to get back into the whole swing of things with their kids.
very
So
cool.
there's definitely some opportunity. I'm always looking for more resources and whatnot for people to join, men to join that, especially anything price centered. It's like talking to a brick wall with some of these guys. And I mean, I know the answer. They just don't want to hear the answer or don't, they're just not ready to accept the answer. So,
That's right. Are
yeah,
you in Tulsa area, Joshua?
yes, sir, I am.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hopefully, hopefully by the end of this call, we can get connected,
Okay. Yeah.
meet up and be able to get you some resources and chat about it some more.
Okay. Sounds
You know,
great,
and
sir.
you bring up a great point. You know, in Corinthians, there's a verse where it says it's neither the one who plants or the one who waters, but it's the Holy Spirit who gives the growth, God alone who gives the growth. And so, you know, that's the deal is we just have to be obedient. You know, I think God gives us opportunities every single day, right? And honestly, we squander them. I'm definitely guilty of squandering opportunities every single day. You know, there's opportunities in front of us. Um, but it's not up to us, right? It's not up to us. All we can do is share our story. We can share about what God's done in our own life, share about how that's affected our marriages, how it's affected our kids. Um, there's no question I'm a better dad now than I was 10 years ago. And there's only one reason for that, and it's because God has strategically placed people in my life that has helped me see through a different lens, right? And so we have opportunity. And I really just want to be encouraging to each and every one of you guys to use the opportunity to use what God's given you um, and apply it. So you're right on, Josh. I appreciate you sharing that. Look forward to getting connected. And the DHS is there's a lot to navigate. So I know that I know that that's an important part of it, and just resourcing men and getting men in a room together and sharing life. So any other thoughts? I've got I'm not sure if I can pull it up. Are you guys are you still able to see me if I switch screens? I'm not familiar enough
Yeah,
with doing that.
let me adjust you. I think you can still share your screen, but let me make you a co-host.
Oh, I don't need to share it. Well, I don't
Oh,
necessarily need to
okay.
share it. I just I wanted to see if I could pull something up on my screen and be able to share it with you guys. I think this will help bring a little context. There's only a handful of people that have seen this because it's actually one of the pages in our challenge series that we're launching. But I wanted to just share these 11 over this last year, when I was doing some writing, I wrote down 11 things that I believe dads on special assignment are. And I think it'll just kind of help bring some context for you guys to just kind of know where we're at, what we're doing, and help you guys engage a little bit. And so I'm just going to read through these. Dads on special assignment have hope in the future. Man, if you've ever met somebody who's hopeless, that's a scary place to be, right? Um, I know men who have been there. You have to have hope in the future. I know for some of us, the diagnoses, some of them are better than others. Things look totally different, right? There's always hope. Dads on special assignment allow themselves to grieve. I already touched on that a little bit. Man, we have to understand it's okay. Life is not always okay. And we have to be willing to grieve and go through the grieving process, which we break down more. Dads on special assignment overcome stress. Stress is a big one. I mean, have you ever set on hold trying to get meds updated for your kid, or you've set on hold with a number of, people that you have to call? It's easy to it's easy to build some stress and anxiety over that, right? But we have to be willing to overcome that and really recognize that we are a kid's advocate, and they're relying on us. They need us. There's things that they physically cannot do, for themselves, and so we need to be willing to step into that. We choose not to isolate. Again, I touched on that a little bit. If you're dealing with isolation, if you're dealing with something like that, man, find somebody, reach out. We cope in ways that are not destructive. To me, coping mechanisms is a big one. There's plenty of testimonies I could share with you guys about men in our organization that dealt with alcohol abuse, drug abuse. There's plenty of ways to cope, but there's healthy ways to cope. You can cope in ways that aren't destructive. Finding hobbies and interests that you can spend time on, which again is really, really important. You want to be able to create that time and space for you. Self-care is important. We just can't abuse it, right? I mean, you want to be able to have time for you to replenish your tank, and be the man that you need to be, but not spend so much time on it that that's abusing the time that you have. And so, looking at ways of coping in healthy ways with hobbies, exercise, things like that. We develop lasting friendships. Man, I think the word friendship has taken on a whole new meaning in society with social media the way it is. Man, to have true friendship is critical to you being healthy, going back to that model of being healthy. And so one of the things I always encourage guys to do is sit down with a pen and paper, your notes on your phone, and just evaluate your friendships. Evaluate the people in your life, the people you're spending time with, and develop friendships that are going to last long term. That's a big one. Dads on special assignment know their why. You have to know why you're living life and doing what you're doing. We do a men's getaway every year. I usually ask the same question. It's a question I'll ask you right now. We ask the question of, why did you become a dad? Again, that's a question that has there's a lot to unpack there, right? And there's a lot of different stories about how you became a dad. But you have to know your why. And so that's a big one. We act like men according to God's word. You have to be willing to stand up, stand for what's right, stand for truth, but do it with love and grace. That's a big one. There has to be a healthy balance there, but you have to be willing to step up, be a man, recognize your failure, recognize your strengths, and navigate that, especially in those relationships with a spouse, of owning up to the things that you recognize have been unhealthy or that you've taken advantage of, and work through it. And that's a process. And sometimes it's, days, weeks, months, years. But we have to be willing to do it. We embrace the role that we've been given. You guys already heard me touch on that a little bit. Man, to really truly be a healthy dad on special assignment, you have to embrace your kid's life, for who they are. And that's critical. Dads on special assignment lead their families well. Again, you heard me touch on that a little bit earlier. I think it's just as important to understand our role in the family unit and be willing to lead. And sometimes leadership, sometimes we may not even know what that looks like. We may not even know what the next step is, but we need to be willing to figure that out, right? To be able to find it, to be able to reach out to people, to be able to have that person that you can talk to, navigate, and really honestly seeing models, evaluating people in your life. There's always people you look to and go, man, there's just something there. There's something about them. It may be as simple as just going and asking a question. And you'd be amazed with how often they're willing to open up and share, because again, you desire it, and you desire it for other people. I mean, I know for me, knowing where I was at, knowing where I'm at now, and knowing where I want to be, I desire those same things for other people that God's put in my life. And so when people ask questions, it gives me the opportunity to invest in them, to open up, to share life, and just be real. I mean, to me, that's a big deal. There's a whole facade, of what life is supposed to look like and what men look like. And a lot of it's fake. And so for me, it's just letting people in. I mean, there's men on this call right now who I've spent quantity time with, who have seen the ins and outs of me, at home, out in public, with my kids, with my wife. We have to be willing to let people in. We have to be consistent. We have to learn healthy things that we see in others' relationships, and model those things in our own family so that we can lead them well. And then the last one I have listed here is that dads on special assignment share life with the world around them. Again, just going back to the idea that we have to be willing to open up. We have to be willing to go out. We have to be willing to go out and share life with those that are around us. I know for Heidi and I's story, there was a period of time where we just simply was uncertain whether or not it was a good idea to get out in public, with having our son on a ventilator, having the trach, we could pull that off. He would have the filters, and there was just a lot of health concerns. Early on, it was like, I just can't, I can't take him anywhere. But there comes a point in time where you recognize that it goes back to being healthy. It's not healthy for your kid to always be, we have to always protect. I want to make sure you guys don't miss me on this. We have to nurture and protect relationships above all. The nurturing process and the protecting process are our two main responsibilities we have. So those come first and foremost. I mean, there's specific reasons why maybe you can't do something, but we also have to recognize that they want to live life. They want to be a kid. They want to engage in all the things that everyone else is doing. They don't necessarily want to be treated different. And so we have to be willing to foster an environment that allows that, right? And a lot of times it requires doing uncomfortable things. It requires going places that maybe, you know what, it'd be a lot easier not to do that. But we have to be willing to say, you know what, this is not about me. This is about my family. This is about my kids. This is about doing the right thing. And this is about engaging them where they're at and helping them live as normal of a life as possible. And so for me, that's a big component of it. Um, I was convicted several years back in the fact that I mentioned we've got 6 sons, all different ages, and and I would always take turns going to Lowe's. I would take one of them to Lowe's with me, picking up stuff for projects at the house, and it was always easy to take my middle kids. Um, and I would always skip over Landon. It was like, it's too much effort. Is he going to get anything out of it? And I'll never forget the first time that him and I got in the car alone. I loaded up his wheelchair. We went to Lowe's and we walked around and we bought the stuff that we needed. And it was just evident that he, without ever being able to speak a word, was able to express the time that he had. And that, again, that was one of those monumental moments for me of like understanding that we have to be willing to engage our families into society. Yes, there's going to be times where we need to be home. We need to keep them safe. We need to protect them. But we need to be able to go do life with others and develop relationships. And so to me, that's just a big one. Of getting out, going, meeting other people, doing normal things, and allowing them to see that, experience that. And it's amazing where if you have the headspace in advance and you allow yourself, there will always be something that we can learn from that experience. Every single time. But we have to be paying attention. Which is why, to me, being present is so important. Walking through the store with your family, but being on your cell phone is not being present. Sitting in the living room, but being totally checked out, is not being present. And so for me, one of the important things is the only way we can really recognize what it is that God wants to teach us in the times that we're with our family is if we're willing to recognize that there's something there for us, right? And the beautiful thing for me about mentorship and relationships, friendships, I mean, just anything that involves two human beings together is oftentimes the one that is I mean, I hear this a lot with men is the person that you're meeting with always thinks that they are the one that's on the receiving end. But a lot of times it's the mentor or it's the friend who's actually on the receiving end because they get to witness those things, right? They get to see those things happening. And so it's a mutual relationship. It's never one-sided. There's always something for both parties. Going over to another family's house. They may feel like that they are the ones that are doing something favorable for you, which is true, but 9 times out of 10, when you leave there, you left an impact on them and something that they've gained and grown from that time together, right? And so we have to know that people are watching. And people are, we stand out. Some of us stand out more than others. Some of us don't. There's a lot of men that are part of DOSA that you would never know that there was a challenge with one of their kids. There's nothing physically that gives you an indication of that. But as you spend time with them, you get to learn more about that, and then you see how those relationships develop with other people over time, and everyone grows, and that's really what it's about, is growing, each one of us growing and being better men. I feel like I've talked a lot. I know we've got about 10 minutes left on this call. Um, I really just want to take this last 10 minutes and just open it up. I'd love some feedback. You know, the thing that I tell people is, I don't have all the answers. I don't even pretend to have all the answers. In fact, I have very few answers. But the answers I have come from the same place. And so for me, everything I want to do is draw people back to understand that, man, you have to be living right, and you have to have a relationship with the Lord. And if that's not foundational, then nothing else is going to line up the way that you want it to. And so, um, again, I know that this group is for me. Um, we've been able to serve a lot of families, and I want to serve a lot more families. But I remind guys all the time, hey, I'm here because I need this too. You know, this group is for me. I'm always open to feedback. I'm always open to input. I'm always interested in new things, and just engaging men where they're at, because again, we're all in a different place, right? And so, just know that I'm an open book. You can share freely with me. It takes a whole lot for me to get offended, and so, I just want to give you guys some time to share and see what comes from it.
Hey, me again. I just want to say, thank you again. I love seeing, just a group of men trying to be better fathers. I think that's something new and exciting that's kind of happening as men are actively seeking knowledge on, like, hey, what can I do better, either to help not only my kids, my wife, but also myself. So really powerful stuff. And yeah, I mean, I could talk a while too about stuff that you said, but love that you took your son out to Lowe's, like doing the hard stuff. Um, is worth it. Doing the extra work. That was probably a highlight of his month, if not his year.
Mhm.
Going to the Home Depot or Lowe's with his dad and just kind of cruising the aisles and seeing all the stuff. So yeah, I have to remind myself too to like do the hard stuff because it's going to benefit us in the long run.
Mhm.
And being not wanting to go out, but knowing that it's better for the kids and for you, and just making that quality time, making these memories is so important. But yeah, I just love groups of men just trying to be better fathers, better guys, and uh, I really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Very cool. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Look forward to getting you connected with the group.
Yeah, Jeremy, if you don't mind, I'll drop my phone number here in the chat. And if you want to shoot me a text or give me a call, and maybe we can find a time to grab coffee or something.
I'd absolutely love that. I would love that. So yeah, I'll watch for it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I've been a little distracted. I got 3 kids running around here. I'm trying to keep everybody happy. Still listening to what's going on here. So I might have missed a few things here and there. So I'd like to just kind of catch up and see what's see everything about your program and how it can help me and the other men going through similar stories or similar walks in life or just fellowship in general.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think the fact that you got your kids there and you still making the call a priority, man, is pretty solid. So I love that. And yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is again, there's guys from every walk of life. I mean, But, I mean, obviously that's conversation for another time, but we're here and available, and there's guys that are in a tough spot right now, and we want to be able to serve them and love them and encourage them and walk alongside them, man. That's what life's about. So look forward to it. I see, it wouldn't be fair for me not to at least give a shout out to a couple of the guys on this call that are near and dear to me. So I appreciate Levi and Ricky jumping on this call. They're two guys that I've gotten to do a lot of life with. So thanks for being here. And I know there's a couple of you that I see your names on the screen, but wasn't able to connect with. So I know, and I'm sure maybe Renee or Tammy will go over this, but having our contact information available for you guys as well.
I dropped your contact information in the chat box, your email and your phone number. What would be the best way for a dad to get involved with DOSA?
Step one would be just sending a message. Text is always great. I've got the chat pulled up. I know you've got my text number on there, the 315-3672-8872. That's a great way just to make an initial connection, is just through text or email, whatever way is easiest. And then, for me to answer that question, one of the things I like to do is really just kind of get a feel for where somebody's at, what's going on in their life. And then it kind of helps me direct what might be a good first step. It's difficult for some men to walk into a building where there's 6 or 8 or 10 other guys meeting. It might be too awkward, but they might be willing to sit down and meet one-on-one with me or one of our group leaders. The challenge series is a great way to engage because it's all new guys that are sitting down and meeting for the first time, whether that's through Zoom or in person. So that's always a great way to just engage and really walk out the process and going through some of these difficult topics that we talked about as far as coping and grieving and things like that. So really step one is, you can go to the website, you can learn a little bit there. Mostly all of what I shared on this call, but you can go there and then just reach out to me, and then I can direct you to really what makes the most sense of getting you plugged in from that point.
You mentioned your challenge series workbooks. Could you just touch briefly on what you cover beyond? You said it was a bunch of new dads, but just briefly.
Yeah, I've got one. We've got one edition. It's our first edition that I finished up this last year, earlier this year. But yes, and so what it is specifically is it's kind of an overview. It's a 13 session. So there's 13 sessions that we walk through, and it's broken into 3 different segments. The first segment is on hope. We have a couple segments that talk about hope. Again, I start there. Men are going to struggle and have a really difficult time getting where they want to be if they don't understand that Christ is got to be the focus. So we address hope on the first 2 sessions and help men understand what that means and what that looks like. And from there, we actually have a segment on healing. Again, we cover multiple topics under healing. One of them that I didn't mention is PTSD. A lot of people don't realize that PTSD and CPTSD is something that our families deal with on a regular basis because there's ongoing trauma. A lot of times we associate that with some other things, but again, grieving, coping mechanisms, friendships, isolation are just a few of the things that we talk about in the healing segment. And then the final segment is on purpose, and we actually break down and really start dissecting what it means to be a dad. It goes back to what I shared earlier about the why, helping men walk through that and understand and then that helps them understand their role as a dad on special assignment, and then it leads them to their purpose and helping men really, by the end of that challenge series, it helps them really understand what their purpose is. Because I think there's a lot of us that are just walking around that really haven't sat down and really honed in on what is this life that I'm living and what's it about, what am I doing, and what's the purpose. And so that last segment really hones in and focuses on purpose. So that's the challenge series, 13 sessions, hope, healing, and purpose, and walk men through that and come out stronger and healthier on the other end.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing and allowing other people to share. I learned a lot, and when you get your Zoom out, I will send it out. I'll send it out to Oklahoma Family Network, and to, I'll spread the word. Just let me know, okay?
Awesome.
Because
Yeah.
this is crucial, and to touch the entire state it's definitely needed. And again, thank you for your time, and thank you all for coming.